Hello and welcome back to Crafted by Corie. If you're new, I'm Corie. Welcome to my channel. If you're returning, thank you as always for being here. I am super excited. I have some minis today with a patriotic flair, so let's go ahead and get right on into the crafting. DIY number one. All right, I have this burn paste that I got off of Amazon. We're going to try this out. And then I have 6 by 6 inch wood pieces. It's balsa wood that I'm going to be using. Just kind of checking out the jar here. It says that it's non-toxic. I have no idea what this is made out of. So I was a little leery about getting it on my skin. I'm sure that it's fine, but I don't know, it smelled a little funny to me. I'm not sure what I was expecting it to look like, but it was more liquidy than I expected because it was described as a paste, but I would say it was kind of like a thick paint consistency. But I'm going to go ahead and grab one of my little balsa wood squares. These are also from Amazon, and I have one of my chalk couture, they call them transfers. It's basically like a silk screen is the way I would describe it. You can also use a stencil, but I'm just going to rub this down. Clearly I've used this in the past with actual paint or paste. And I'm going to be applying this burn paste the same way that I would the regular paste, the paint paste. It came with this little squeegee that I'm working with, and I'm just applying it liberally. I wasn't sure how much to put on here. I probably put on more than it needed, but being that I had used this transfer before, and clearly it was shaded with that color of paint that I had used in the past, I was a little nervous about it going through. But you're supposed to let it sit for 2 to 3 minutes, which I did. And now I am removing the transfer or the stencil. And you can see that it clearly came through on here. So I'm grabbing my heat gun and I am going to work on making the burn come through. Now, I have a burn marker that I've used in the past. You can see this is working really well. And the more I heat my burn marker, the darker my burn looks. Now, it looked really dark here on camera, but in person, it just wasn't as dark as I'd wanted it to be, so I kept going. But you might be noticing the more I go, the lighter it's getting. So it got really dark, well, relatively dark, and now it's starting to get light again. So I was like, uh-oh, what's going on? And so I ended up realizing that the more I did that, the lighter it was getting, and if I just left it alone, as it cooled, it was getting darker. But I had that one spot there that just didn't go back. So once it was cool, I figured, you know what, this is meant to be kind of rustic looking to begin with. I figured it would add to the charm. But I have the second transfer that I'm going to go ahead and apply right over top of what I just burned. It was completely dry and the effect was done. And then I have these little packets of paste that I had already used once before, and I'd used them quite a while ago and tried to seal them up just by like taping them shut. Clearly it didn't work real well because they were pretty dried out. So I'm reconstituting it with water. That is one cool thing about the chalk couture paste is that it's water soluble. So when you use it on something, depending on the surface, you can actually clean it off when you're done with that season or whatever and apply a different image or words or whatever else it is that you want to do. So I was able to reconstitute this with the water, and now I'm just going to squeegee it on the same way that I did the burn paste before, but now we're going to be applying the color, obviously. So this was Colonial Blue that I was applying on here. And then I'm going to be doing Candy Apple Red. And I'm peeling it up right there because I have learned from experience that the paste dries relatively quickly. And if you don't work fast enough, and I knew I was going to be slow with having to reconstitute the paste that I was working with, If you don't work quickly enough, it will dry in the transfer, and when you pull the transfer away, it will pull the paste away with it. So I wanted to make sure that that wasn't going to happen. And what I had been taught was that you just peel it back to free it from the transfer, it being the paste, so that it remains deposited on your piece. And then you can continue on. So that is what I did with that. So now I grabbed a few straws out of my stash. These were left over from a pack. I think I must have gotten them at the Dollar Tree, but it's been a while and I don't honestly recall, and I hadn't kept the packaging for it. So these were actually pretty sturdy, I must say. Pretty solid, and I was hoping that they were going to help me kind of flatten out my wood, because in the process of using the heat gun on it, it warped it a little bit. So I was kind of hoping that this was going to help it. I would say it helped a little bit, but not to the extent that I needed it to. And I have those other pieces of wood up under there just to help lift it off my surface, so that when I applied the glue right there, it wasn't going to glue it to my table. So I just applied it to one side and then the other, laid down the straws right over top of that bead of hot glue, just making sure that it's all lined up. And you can kind of see here that it's a little warped still. So I figured, you know what, let me try and grab a couple of popsicle sticks and see if I can help straighten it out by supporting the back side of the piece. And this actually worked very well. So I'm going to apply 3 popsicle sticks here. I did the one at that angle, and then I'm going to do 2 more at the other angle that you see there. Just using hot glue, just a single bead down the length of the popsicle stick. I'm going to do that for both of these next 2. Just be careful not to burn yourself. I've had some really bad burns. It doesn't feel good. All right, so applying that down, and so this not only provided some support and got it a little bit more, see how it's not warped anymore? It gave a place to add a little stand. So I'm going to kind of work it into that little corner there. And I realized that it just needed to be about 3 fingers from the back of it. So hopefully you can understand what I'm talking about by seeing what I'm doing here. But trying to figure out what the angle needed to be for it to be a little stand. And I had applied the glue. And once it was cool, it was all good to go with my little stand here. Just applied some additional hot glue to give it some more support. And this was really good to go. So I'll turn it around here in a second for you to see. But let me know what you think of this one. I think it is super cute, and I'll have to give the burn paste another go. DIY number 2. Okay, I've got another one of these 6x6 wood panels, balsa wood. And then I have these little ornaments from the Dollar Tree. I thought they were super cute. I was trying to bend off the little hanger piece at the top, but it ended up damaging the star point a little bit. So I ultimately used my tin snips, I was trying to think of what those were, to cut that away. So I did bend it away a little tiny bit without damaging the others, so that I could get the tin snips in there to snip that off. So I was just being super careful. It's just once I bent it on that first one beyond a certain point, it ended up bending the whole tip of the star. So if you're going to try to pry that away, I recommend that you use tin snips. So now I'm just going to use some hot glue and apply these right onto the wood piece. I just thought it would be cool to see the different colored stars on the background of the wood, and this is going to be another cute little sign for my tiered tray. These are actually metal. They're little, I don't know if they're tin. I'm not really sure what type of metal that they are, but I think that they're really good quality considering the price, and super cute. So now I'm going to be doing exactly what I did before to create a stand, but I don't need to worry about it being warped. So I'm going to just put one popsicle stick across the upper part of our little sign here. And then I'm going to use 2 other popsicle sticks for the kickstand piece of it. So I'm just trying to figure out where it needs to be again. I'm going to add in my hot glue. It was just a 3-finger situation again, so I held my fingers there until it cooled well enough to support itself. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the second little popsicle stick. Now, I thought about putting another popsicle stick across the base of the 2 sticks, but I ultimately decided it wasn't needed and it would fit better on my tray that way. DIY number 3. All right, I have these little stars again and the remnants of the other ornaments that I just used. I'm after the beads that are on here right now. You could see I also have out my jute cord as well as some ribbon. That was a nautical ribbon from the Dollar Tree. At least that was the way that it was marketed, but it's red, white, and blue, and it's the right shades, so I am using it for my patriotic decor. So once I got all of the beads off, I went ahead and cut off a length of my jute cord, and I'm going to start stringing all of this on here. I decided I was going to use one of the stars as my little anchor point. I'm not really sure what else you would call it on a tassel, not a tassel, on a garland, but it's going to be the end of my garland. So I did put a little bit of hot glue on the tip of that to help work it through the beads, as this jute cord is rather thick. So I did struggle a little bit with getting it over the double width of the jute. It was fine going over one, but going over that second one, it was a little bit much for it. So just to make things easier for myself, I did add some hot glue to both ends, just because it does start to unravel, and then the more it unravels, the wider it gets. And so once I had that glue on there, it was much easier, even with that second one, although I did, like I said, have to work it a little bit more. So once I had a few of the beads on, I knew I didn't have enough beads to do a full garland, at least not for the length that I wanted to do this. So I knew I was going to need to use something else, and I opted to use ribbon. So I'm going to cut off lengths. I would say these are probably 6 to 8 inch lengths of ribbon. I'm just going to tie it in a knot around the jute cord. And so in addition to this red, white, and blue ribbon, I also grabbed out a red and white checked, like gingham mini buffalo check ribbon, which I wasn't really sure about it at first. But then as I started working with the ribbons and getting down the length of the garland, I love this ribbon with it, and I was wishing I had more of it. Unfortunately, I only had enough for 4 little ties, so eventually I'm going to end up having to move some of them down the length of the garland, and you'll see that in a little bit. But this other ribbon is a blue with silver running through the center of it, also from the Dollar Tree. And then I have a gray with silver running down through it as well that I'm going to add in. I was looking for a white ribbon that is this 1/2 inch thickness, and I didn't have one. So this light gray with the silver was as close as I could get, and I figured that it would complement the garland well. So I tied 4 of these little ribbons onto each section, and then added some more beads on, white, red, and blue. It was the order that I did it in. And then I did go ahead and add on all of the beads at one point because I figured that that would help speed things up for me. And then I just tied the ribbon on in between the beads that I had already threaded onto the jute cord. So now as I got down to the end, I had one piece of ribbon left of each of the types, of the 3 types. I was out of the red at this point. But I looped the jute cord back around onto itself and threaded it up through those last 3 beads, the same way that I had done at the beginning, because I want to tie this off and fasten it off. So once I got it worked up through, you can see I've got that loop there in my right hand. I am going to drop those ribbons into that loop and pull that tight to create kind of like a faux tassel at the end. I did opt to tie each of those in a simple knot at the end as well, just to help anchor them a little bit more. And then I went ahead and also tied off the jute cord and trimmed that off, the tail of the jute cord that had gone back up through the little beads. So here I am readjusting with my red because it was really only enough for a third of the garland. So the first third had the red and then the rest of it didn't. So I'm just reallocating, so to speak, the red ribbon. So I'm just moving it so that the red is a little bit more evenly spaced around the garland. And once I did that, I had it all set. Here's the last one that I was moving. Actually, I might have moved one more. I don't know. I made sure it was more evenly spaced down the length of the garland. And voila, there she is. Let me know what you think. Now it's time for a shout out timeout. Great, Rose. These are so nice. You've been busy. And very nice, Valerie. Valerie had some Mother's Day and graduation projects. I would love to give you a shout out as well. If you have interest, just send me an email at craftedbycorie@gmail.com. DIY number 4. Okay, this is from the Dollar Tree. It's just a little votive holder, and I am using my ocean chalk paint. Now, in hindsight, I wish that I didn't fill in all the little divots. I had my mindset on what I was going to do with this before I started, and I wish I had pivoted as I saw how easy it was just to paint the raised parts of this. So in hindsight, I would have left, I would have just gone over the surface quickly and left those little divots blank, clear of paint. That was my ocean chalk paint. This is my Adirondack white, and I am painting the inside of this to the same fashion as the outside. Now, had I done what I was just suggesting that I should have done, I could have done the same on the inside, and the opposite little divots would have been painted. So I would have ended up with the same effect without having to sand it, which is what I'm going to be doing once this is dry. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm actually thinking I might have liked it better that way too, because then it would have been blue with little white circles rather than white with little blue circles. But anyway, it still turned out really sweet. I still love it. I hope you will love it too. But I went ahead and used my heat gun to help dry it. And once it was dry and also cool enough, because this is glass and it heats up very quickly, I went ahead and grabbed my sanding block and I sanded it down. This particular sanding block is, you know, pretty much beat. So I was having to work it a little bit. I should have grabbed a new piece of sandpaper, but I made it work. But you can see I'm just kind of wearing it away, and you can see the white coming through. And once that was all done, I grabbed a little piece of floral foam. I cut it in half because it was a little too wide for my piece, and I stacked it and add a little bit of glue to each of the four corners. I'm not putting it all throughout, because if I do that, I won't be able to stick things down through it, because the glue will prevent that. So you just want to be mindful if you glue your floral foam together that you don't want to be blocking the stuff that you're trying to stick through the floral foam. So I glued that to the bottom, and then I decided I wanted to paint it white, at least the top area that could be seen or visible if somebody were to just take a peek down inside of it. So used my Adirondack white for that. And once that was dry, I was ready to add my little doodads. This little piece is from the Hobby Lobby, I believe. I've had it in my stash for a while. And then I think I might have gotten these flags from the Hobby Lobby as well, but I've had them literally for probably 3 or 4 years, you guys. They've just been in my stash. So adding these in, the flags I put in at different heights. And I think this is cute, but let me know what you think. DIY number 5. All right, this is a little whiteboard from the Dollar Tree. I was thinking about painting the back side of it and doing my project on the back side of this. First I pulled off that little tag, and I'm going to use some sandpaper to sand away the little adhesive residue, get that all cleaned up. And then I was getting ready to paint it, and then I was like, well, wait a minute, that side's white, and I was going to paint this white. Maybe I should just do it on this side. So I decided I was going to use the white side. After all, this is my sapphire blue Arteza paint marker. So I'm going to just shake that up and get it ready. Now, one thing with the paint markers from Arteza, if you're not familiar with them, they have dual points on them. So they give you this little tweezer. I'm about to flip this point across my table because I couldn't hold on to it properly. But they have a dual point. So I flipped it around, and now I have a fine point on my paint marker. So I started to do my little message on here, and you know, I'm getting there. I'm like, wait a minute. I needed this centered. I didn't make it big enough. Now, I started to put that cap back on there. You might have noticed me doing that. If you do that with the fine point on the Arteza paint markers, you will smush the point. The cap is not deep enough to cover up the fine point tip. You have to flip it back around and give it the blunt tip before you put the cap on. Just a word from experience. So here I'm going to go again. You saw me kind of air drawing because I am visual. I needed to get an idea of where to place my my letters to get this where I wanted it on the piece this time. And I am hand lettering this, obviously. You could certainly use a stencil. If you have a Cricut machine, you could use that. I just opted to do the hand lettering because I enjoy it, and I don't know, I feel like it gives things a little bit more charm at times. Granted, it's not always as professional looking, so if you're looking to sell your work, I do recommend using a Cricut unless you have really great hand lettering. Now, my first run at it never looks all that great, but it lays the foundation. And so now I am coming back through and I'm going to do a faux calligraphy on all of these to finish up the hand lettering, which I always think makes it look much nicer. And I'm generally pleased with my final product when I do this. And this piece was no exception. So I'm just going to continue working on all of the downstrokes. So anywhere, if you think about when you draw a letter, anytime you're working your way from top to bottom on the letter stroke, that's where you're going to widen it. So, I almost tried to put that cap on again. So I'm going to try and pull this out of here without flinging it. So get that turned back around. And then once I've got that dull side up, I can put my cap on. So now this is vermilion chalk paint, or not chalk paint, excuse me, acrylic paint in my acrylic paint marker by Arteza. So the same pack of paint markers, but using the vermilion now. Just adding in some little stars. Fill in some of those white spaces. I am not real great at drawing stars, y'all. Clearly, they're just, they needed help. So I at least got the base down, and I had to kind of go back through and fill in some of the spots because they looked just lopsided to me. But of course, every time I did one side, then another side looked like it needed help. So probably should have quit while I was ahead right there, but of course I kept going. So one more here, I think, and then we'll call it, nope, one more. There we go. All right, so there is that. And I think this is really sweet, very simple, but let me know what you think. And here we are with the final reveal. Okay, everybody, that's it for today. If you enjoyed the projects, please remember to give me a big thumbs up, leave me a comment, let me know which one was your favorite. And until the next time, be well, be kind, and make it a great day. Thank you so much for watching. Take good care. Bye.